Hello there everybody and welcome back to Memory Gamma. Today we're going to carry on with our current thread of videos and we're going to move on to the Klingons once again. Now last time we talked about the IKS Vaughn. We're going to go to a much smaller ship, as has been our thing for these ones. We're going to look back at the very first Klingon ship we ever see, the D7. Now there are several different versions of the D7 and they have two different base action bars because they both represent different times inside Klingon ship development. So we have the IKS Groth, which is the very original one from the Tribble episode of the original series, Trials and Tribulations. It gets a battle stations on the action bar, which is very nice for the Klingons, and it's the only ship that gets it natively without adding Dominion or Retrofit. There's also the Divisor, which is from the animated series. Both of those are, you may notice, battle station ships. Then there is two which are the Klothos and Kolars. Both of these have cloaking devices. For obviously in universe, the Klingons traded the schematic for the D7 class to the Romulans in return for a load of second and third generation Romulan cloaking devices. I think the Klingons probably got the better deal out of that, as it allowed the Klingons to add their cloaking technology properly to all their ships going forwards. So we're going to go with the original, no cloaking. We're going to go with the Divisor, I think. So the Divisor's ability is if when you attack, the defending ship moved at least speed 3 this round, you add a crit, which is really nice. Fast moving ship, a ship that's running really fast to get to you, you get to add a crit. Now, as we've done with our Federation and the Romulan on the smaller ship builds, I am not going to use cards or try to avoid cards that I have already used in a previous video. So this will not be a Dahar Master build. We know how terrifying they are. They don't need to be continually revised. So, thinking of that, let's move on to a captain. Now, at this point, some of them would be really nice. Martok's a really good one if you've got a fleet, because he can hand out free actions to ships that are nearby. Duras is fun because he gives you Romulan talents at a fixed 3 points, and also any ones on him are face down, so you don't have to reveal them until you use them. This Martok makes everything on board a point cheaper, and as an action you can roll less dice to add a guaranteed hit. On a Klingon ship it's 1 dice for 1 hit. Basically it's actions setting 1 attack dice to a hit is what it comes down to. This Martok here is you can get bonus dice and a convert of a hit to a crit, but you lose defense dice. But I think what we want to be doing is finding something that gives us either more quality or more dice. So we've got, going past the Dahar Masters, Kargan's nice. If you do a upgrade card action, you can do a target lock action as a free action, but you don't get a talent slot on him. He came with the pack, the IKS Pa, and the talent slot in that ship came from the crew member William Riker. This Korok is when you fire at range 1, you get to disable 1 shield on the target ship at the start of the deal damage step. So it's 1 extra temporary point of damage each turn. Chang allows you to spend your target lock to disable the enemy captain. Now, Duras, son of Taral. After an enemy ship in range moves, you can change your maneuver. Now that's nice. There's no time tokens, no disable. You can do that every single round. As long as the ship is within range 1 to 2, after they've moved, you can change your move. I think that is going to be a really good one for this, because if they've come in and screamed in at 3 or 4 or faster and have got really close to you, changing your maneuver so you can get to a firing position is going to be useful. Now, talents. Klingon talents we went through last time, some of them are particularly nice, some of them work a little bit more on risking it. Basically, Klingons are all about high risk, high reward. So things like Long Live the Empire. When firing primary weapon, you can roll up to 3 additional attack dice, and if you do so, you have to suffer 1 damage to your hull or shields for each dice you added. Now, that could be you discard the card, roll 3 dice, and get 3 blanks. Well, the luck hated you. You still take the 3 damage, however. So it's not damage based on how much damage you did extra, it's on how many times you gambled, you suffer damage. So the risk is high, but the potential reward is also high. So there is potential there. Long Live the Empire is a favourite of mine, because again, with modern cards you can pretty much guarantee 3 dice is 3 damage with battle stations and scan conversions and blank conversions. Sorry. So yes, you're taking damage, but it's guaranteed hits. And of course, if you've got a way either to repair or just to fire first, then Long Live the Empire can be quite nice. Mok Tovar requires you to kill your captain card, and you get dice equal to half his skill, rounding up. Or rounding down, pardon me, so 3 dice maximum. So Torar will give you the full skill at 3 dice for 6 skill. But it's an action, which means in the combat phase you are firing last, because at that point, at the start of the combat phase, your captain skill reworks and you have a captain skill of 0. So yes, it's a load of extra dice. So it's a lot of extra dice with an Orcs power token and no free actions for firing last and 3 dice. It can be used because obviously if you've got a way to keep your captain card around, say Mara or anybody else that prevents the captain from being discarded, basically it's you get to keep the captain skill and you get a bunch of bonus dice. But at that point, Long Live the Empire is better because it's not an action. Klingon Honor, disable the card, extra attack dice and a hit to crit conversion, but no defense dice. Once more into the Breach, dear friends, again is a action for double attack, but -1 dice each, and no defense dice. All of these they're high risk, but not amazing. Not at least for the Divisor. Gouvernement, the Klingon Chosen One. You can discard the card to get an extra attack dice for each Klingon crew upgrade on your ship to a max of 3, and then 1 crit to your hull. Now, that's 1 crit to your hull, so 1 face-up damage card, which could kill you, it could do anything. But it's 1 dice. It's 1 dice per card, and it's to a maximum of 3, and you suffer 1 damage. So it's probably a much nicer one than Long Live the Empire. It requires, however, 3 Klingon crew to make it really good, and most Klingon ships lack slots. Klingon ships, well, for the most part, they'll have a crew, weapon, and a tech, and then they'll have a second either crew or weapon for the named ships. The only ships that get, I think, 3 crew as standard for the Klingons are either Kolar's battlecruiser, which is where Gouvernement came, or the Devul, the modern Negvar, which comes with triple crew weapon tech. So that could be a thing, but it would need extra slots before it makes it work. Aim and Fire stops the enemy from re-rolling defense dice when firing primary weapon. Now that can be nice against some of the later ships, so the Belak, a Romulan Doderidex that can re-roll all defense dice when it's cloaked. That could be really nice. But again, not a lot of stuff re-rolls defense dice, and we're looking for some passive or some guaranteed quality here. Anyway, the Empire, again, discard for +1 attack dice. If the defending ship is a Klingon ship or has a Klingon captain or any cards, it's a disable for 1 dice. If you're firing against Klingons, brilliant. However, we're going to go with DNA encoded messages. You get to have 3 Klingon elite talents underneath this, and at the start of the activation phase, you can reveal the one you want. So it gives you flexibility, which is what we want. The first one is going to be Interrogation, which is discards to get attack dice equal to 1 plus the number of upgrades the enemy ship brought. There's no downsides to it. You don't suffer damage, you don't lose defense dice, you can still act. It just depends on the enemy bringing cards. Today is a good day to die, which is, as a discard, as an action, all ships convert all hits into crits. This isn't just all you or all of your ships, it's every ship on the board. So it's, we're all dying this round. If your shot goes first, congratulations, you win. But it's a risky move, but it's a lot of fun because you go perfect. Okay, everything's a crit. Everything's going to suck. And, with that, with a big battle, and today is a good day to die, you can cycle through a damage deck in one turn. If that's your idea of a good time. A third one to put underneath there, we've got Cunning's nice. When your shields have gone down, it gives you a passive conversion on attacking and a reroll in defense. Reckless Assault gives you an extra attack dice at range 1 with Palm Weapon. The Day is Ours, you get to add a crit to your attack roll. We'll do that one. So during the roll attack dice step, discard the card to add 1 crit. So, at the start activation phase, you will pick which one you want. And you can see from where the enemy is deployed and everything at the start of each turn, do I want to do this? So if you think, this run I'm going to get a shot on the scimitar, or this run I'm going to get a shot on that ball cube, and I really need to, pile on the damage, then, you reveal interrogation, you do your maneuver, and then you're able to get a shot and you get a bunch of extra dice. So, for a tech upgrade. Now, the Klingons have some interesting tech. Some of them are based around cloaking, as the Romulans, but some of them are more around giving you bonuses. Some of them are also locked, so the thruster efficiency and the enhanced resistance are both locked to Burrell or Cavort, so not available here. Cryostasis. Now, this is one which you can use to get the bonus crew, if we were going to go with a Couverma. Because you can put 2 non-ball crew upgrades that have a combined cost of 5 or less underneath, and you can action to reveal them. So it has to be either a 4 and 1, 3 and 2. Are your options. But there's a lot of crew upgrades which you can do that with. And then, if you were to do that, load this up, spend the first couple of turns getting the crew members out, then interrogation, then you can swap one of those talents out for Couverma. And then, if you were going to do that, it's a nice way of being able to use the original core. It adds a basic crew slot. You could get 5 or even 6 Klingon crew onto a single ship with original core cryostasis. And then you're getting an awful lot of rerolls and bonus dice. Again, potential, maybe not for this, but cryostasis is a very powerful Klingon tech. Inverse Graviton Burst, it hands out an Orcs power token to every enemy ship, to every single ship, and you at range 1 to 3. It's just a burst. Everybody sucks up an Orcs power token, which could really knacker if you're moving really early. So if you've gone at skill 2 or 3 and you do that, you've given them an Orcs power token. They haven't moved yet, so if they've revealed a red maneuver, it could cause them to crash, spin out of control. It could mean that they've paragoned in a white maneuver and they've lost their action this round. So it can mess with them a lot. But again, it requires probably early on using, or using it with drawing attacks onto you. So, again with Projected Stasis Field, if you're not cloaked, turn your shields off and discard this and pick an enemy ship at range 1 to 2. All of its shields go down and it can't attack. You lose 2 dice this round. So, it means your attack isn't going to be brilliant, but it turns off someone else's shields and their attack. It's a good way of nerfing one enemy ship. Again, if you know that if the scimitar's bearing down on you, or the ball cube, or a sovereign, or even just a really nasty ship, PSF will stop them attacking for a round. It doesn't stop them defending. It's still going to roll their defense dice. So a cloaked ship would not be able to attack, but would still be able to get its full defense dice. But it does stop it from attacking. If you know someone's setting up for a super powerful hit, an alpha strike, it's a good way to go and slow down for a turn. Security sensors. If an upgrade or captain targets your ship, you get an evade token. Now that's every time. It's expensive, but if lots of things are targeting your ship, then you get an evade token every time they do it. So if someone goes, Gen Cisco, on your ship, disable this, congratulations, you've just giving me an evade token. If someone goes Koth, or someone targets your captain to try and discard him, or kills a crew upgrade, any of those, every single one, it triggers an evade token. It's nice, but it requires on you having a lot of stuff to mess with, so small ships, probably not the best. Targeting array, your target lock, it gives you 2 target. It means whenever you target lock, you can target lock 2 different ships and maintain 2 different target locks. Potential. React events, you can spend your Orc's power token at the start of the combat phase to possibly damage an enemy ship by killing one of their shields. So that's something you do in your combat maneuver. You're behind the enemy ship. It's a way of getting rid of your Orc's power token and using it offensively. You're firing Orc's power at them to do damage. Tritium Intermix. This is another good one. You can discard the card as an action to turn all critical damage cards face down, then repair 1 damage to your hull, and you may perform the evade action as a free action. There's a lot of stuff in there, and it's the I'm almost dead, and it starts doing the repair work because it gets rid of all your crits. Now it turns them face down without having to worry about anything. So if you had a warp core breach, you use Tritium Intermix, it turns the card face down and doesn't count as you having repaired it. It just gets rid of the effect, which means it just becomes a normal damage card, and then you can repair one of those. So if you were on 1 hull with the divisor, you've taken 2 hits, and you've got a crit and a hit. This is turns the crit face down and repairs one of them. Now you've not only are you no longer suffering critical damage, you also have gained a hit point, and you've got an extra evade, more likely to survive. On a small ship again, not massively amazing because again you're only ever going to heal a couple. You're only ever going to fix a maximum of 2 cards. On however, a Navar or something with improved hull, when you've got 6, 7, or even 8 hull. Or even cross-factioning this onto a Borg ship when the Borg ship's got 10 hull points. That's a brilliant way of stopping somebody from, caning you with extra crits. Emergency power allows you to do an action or a red maneuver while you've got an Orc's power token. So you could spin the ship. Now it says during the activation phase, so that means since it doesn't list a particular time, like after you move or when you would perform an action, it does have to be at the start. So you can't do a red maneuver and then disable the card to allow you to perform the action still. It would have to be at the start of the activation phase. So you've got an Orc's power token from last round, for example, from doing your come about maneuver. You can program in your white maneuver, which you need to get out of range of someone or get into a position, and then you can disable the card to perform your action. So it's nice, and it means that you don't have to worry about that Orc's power token immediately. Auxiliary power to shields is a nice one. When defending, you can repair 2 of your shields that were just discarded and take an Orc's power token for each shield repaired. So basically what it means is that you get to double up 2 of your shields. So on the divisor for here, for example, if we did this, when you suffer a damage, someone goes, here's 3 damage to you. Okay, you would go destroy 1 shield, destroy 2 shields. And then immediately, now you can't stop the damage happening. So you can't go destroy 1 shield, destroy 2 shield, repair shield, destroy a 3rd shield. Once the damage is happening, they will go 3 damage. So 1 shield, 2 shield, 1 hull point. Then you can discard that to repair the 2 shields that were just destroyed. So it can't interrupt the damage and mean you don't suffer hull, but it can bring your shields back as soon as the attacks happen and you're still alive. So definitely a good idea. It does give you an Orc's power token for each shield repaired with the ability, which means you're probably not acting for a turn or 2 afterwards. But a lot of these abilities don't require actions. You don't require an action to change a maneuver with Duras. You don't require an action to use interrogation or the Day Azars. So you can get a lot of use out of that, and it keeps you alive. Never a bad thing. Now, weaponry. There is a couple of weapons specific for the D7. Magnetic Pulse and Disruptor Blast. Now, Mag Pulse is disable an active shield on your ship, target the opposing ship. You get weapon value equal to your prime weapon, which is 3, however, plus 2 dice from a D7. And any crits that hit their shield bleed through to normal damage on the hull instead. So you get your 5 dice. say you've gone for, they've moved 3 speed or higher, so you add a crit, you've chosen the day as ours, and you've gone for another crit. So you've gone, right, I've definitely got 5 dice and 2 crits, and you've got 4 crits total. If those 4 crits are uncancelled, in the deal damage step, instead of doing 4 crits to the shields, it'll do 4 base damage to the hull. So this is a really nice way of bleeding through some damage. And however, it does require you to disable a shield, so you will need shields up. So Orc's Power to the Shields is a good way of making sure if you get shot first, your shields are still up for when you can fire later. And then we'll go to crew. Now, there are lots of different crew upgrades. A lot of them are quite expensive and do little effect. So Tavanna allows you to repair shields, but you lose attack dice. Again, if you want to keep firing the mag pulse after long turns of combat, she could be nice. Klingon stealth team is quite nice because it's an action discard. Pick a ship at range 2 to 3 that's not cloaked. It doesn't have to have its shields down. You get to disable a weapon or a tech and then kill one of their crew upgrades. So it's a nice way of ganking out someone's fleet. So you can go, ooh, okay, I don't really want you to be using your Romulan cloaking device this round. So you can turn the Romulan cloaking device off and then you can kill their Nankless. Or you can turn off their photon torpedoes and then turn off their Esri Dax and kill their Esri Dax. So it gets a lot of use out of its one action. All it requires is for you to be at range 2 to 3. And them not to be cloaked. But they can have their shields up, which a lot of boarding parties, like this is, can't do it through shields. So, a lot of potential for that. Sign On, again, a brilliant card, but only really if you are cloaked, and obviously we're not cloaked for this. Klingon Boarding Party is a nice card, but again, requires the enemy to have no active shields. So, maybe not. Maltz is a great favourite of a group of people inside the Fremont group. Shout out to the House of Maltz. He's the first and last word in do you want to be moving everything around from ship to ship. He transfers crew upgrades from left to right, back and forwards, and there's many ways that you can keep him going. In a later video, I will do a full-on Maltz build, a full-on Maltz ship. I might bring up a couple of the House of Maltz builds and talk through about how some of the combos work and how you can get so much use out of him. But I think, again, here's the nice Worf. We've used him already in one of our videos, so we're going to try and avoid using him again. Weapons Officer is a nice. He's a disable to convert all of your battle stations, one into a crit, the rest into hits. Which, again, it can be nice. I mean, this is very much just seems to be an adding crit attack ship. So that could be a nice one. It is a disabled, so you can use him multiple times in a game, provided, of course, you've got your action to re-enable him. We can do... Now, you have Angaran and Drex, who are the exact same ability as the Weapons Officer. However, Weapons Officer is for one attack, because he's a disable. Drex and Angaran are just when attacking this round. So if you've got multiple attacks with Drex and Angaran, with, say, Torpedo Fusillade or Disruptor Pulse, or Disruptor Sweep, then they work on every single attack. But they are in action, so it's trade-off. But I think we are going to look... I mean, this is very much how we want to be able to survive. So it's something that keeps us surviving, that doesn't require an action. I mean, Leskit's a nice one. You reveal a red maneuver, so that you come about. You can discard him, treat it as a green maneuver. You don't get his second ability, which is if you're cloaked, you get a free sensor echo as well. But for one round, it enables you to come about as a green, so you can still act. Which might be what you need to get the drop on someone. We can put Leskit in, just as a stopgap for a minute. We're getting down into the cheaper ones. The Klingons, as you may notice, have a lot of generic crew upgrades, rather than unique crew like the Federation or the Romulans have. Because lots of them are just tactical officer, helmsman, or Becks and weapons officers, that sort of thing. This Klingon helmsman is quite nice. Every other round you get a free scan action. You get a scan as a free action every other round, which helps in this because it gives the enemy -1 defense dice, or you can use it defensively to convert someone's battle stations down into a blank when they attack you. So could be worth it. And again, we could always go Starship Construction for a Dominion War retrofit and put him in a spare crew slot. Science Officer is an action scan and remove a target lock. Again, we don't want to really do stuff with too many actions because we're going to be looking at mainly action battle stationing. But if we get a really nice action, we might look at it. Klingon Helmsman is a nice one. If you do a maneuver that doesn't crash, you can then do a speed 1 maneuver. Now, it has to be a non-red, but if we had a second crew slot, say from Dominion War, we could use Leskit to do a red maneuver, treat it as a green, and then immediately trigger Helmsman because you have performed a non-red maneuver thanks to Leskit. So there's some nice combinations in there. Or of course you've got skill increase War for a big captain skill boost, and then you're into the cheapy ones that give you things like disabling enemy captains, passive conversion, adding or converting hits or crits. So I think we'll see it with Leskit because he's a nice one shot for the maneuver. So this is our D7 build. So it's very much built around critting the enemy and then making that crit hurt. So you've got the Deazar's potential. Underneath the de-encoded messages, you're getting to add a crit with a divisor if you're firing at a fast-moving ship. And then the mag pulses means any crits that hit the shields go through to the hull instead. Said the absolute maximum you could get would be 3 dice from the mag pulse, 5 thanks to the special ability of the cards, adding a crit from the divisor, and you've chosen the Deazar's to add another crit. So you've got 5 dice and a crit and 2 crits, which could be, 5 crits could be rolled. Or you could go for today is a good day to die instead of the Deazar's, and you'd go, right, action, today is a day to die, and you've rolled 5 dice and all of your hits become crits. So you're looking there at probably about 3 crits out of your 5 dice, and then add a crit from the divisor, and they all bleed through. So there's a nice potential. It's a nice, powerful, and also 35 points, really cheap. The Klingons are one of the best people. If you want a swarm fleet of cheap things, generic Barrels and D7s are relatively inexpensive and quite potent. Swarm builds of D7s is something which, again, might look at doing a video in the future. Right, thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.